then you're gonna use them, that's fine. But if you're gonna take the backbone out of these things, and if you don't want them to wash out, they need to be super, super fresh. They sell deboners online. They're all too small in my opinion for mackerel, especially. This is like even too small of a bait to use as a swimmer. I'd really like a monster mac. But there's just a piece of copper pipe. What is that, like 1/2 inch probably?
Yeah. Yep.
1/2 inch copper pipe. We cut a little notch out of it and sharpened it. And then we have the old backbone remover from an old deboner that we had. We also use this for eyeball removing on ballyhoos. But this is really the only part you need. You can do it a couple of different ways. You can go in the gills, which I find pretty easy, or you can go in the mouth. Either way is really fine. What's nice with the mouth is it'll line you up down the throat and get you centered on the fish's backbone. So I'm in here now. Again, this is a really, really old bait, so this is probably not going to work all super well, but he still has his guts in too. So important thing with swimmer max, the guts have to be removed. The best way to do it is to hydro gut. You can get those little like copper attachments for your hose nozzle. You could put like tubing on that to reduce it down small enough to fit in the fish's butt. Just gonna put this nice, beautiful sand eel stomach over here. So his gills are out, his guts are out. You don't necessarily need to take the gills out, but that's step one. You can do it the way I did it. When they're super fresh, all you need to do is take a knife, make an incision here, and do exactly like I did and pull the guts out. If you want to hydro gut them like you're doing a bunch, you just take your knife, make a little cut in the anal vent, take that little homemade nozzle that I told you about, goes up the butt, blows the guts out. That's gonna do the least damage to the mac if you're gonna, use them a couple days later. But again, if you use them the next day, it doesn't matter. So in the mouth, I go down. I want to make sure that that V notch on my deboner is gonna catch that backbone. So I don't want it when I go in. If you can see this, I don't want it going in this way. I want it going in this way, so I can use that little cutout to snap the backbone. Then I'm gonna pull it out, find the backbone with my finger, and then push that backbone into the deboner to remove it. So it takes practice. You're gonna ruin a bunch. I'm probably gonna ruin this one. But I go down just kind of behind the head, find the backbone. You'll hear it snap. I know it snapped. I just reach in, I find it with my finger. I put it on the end of that deboner. The deboner goes in. Once I get pressure, all I do is spin this thing. You can hear it grabbing the backbone. Then once I get down to the anal fins here, I just take the bait and I snap it. That's gonna snap the back. You'll feel it break off inside there. If you do it right, it should come with it. Hear it sliding out though.
Put your thumb on the end of it. Sometimes that helps.
Didn't come out. I got some of it.
That's all you honestly need to do.
It's really honestly all you need to do is separate the meat from the backbone. So now I got a slithery little snake here. All right, he's gonna move around. He's thinner now.
Let's give this all a big
It's
wipe.
as supple as I want it to be. Just gonna clean up this thing a little bit. Just gonna cut this and recrimp. So the only difference in using dead baits is we're going dead bait trolling is we're going J hook. In this case, just a 9.0 Jobu. It's not my favorite hook for this. I like Koga hooks. I like 76/98s, the regular steel mustad hooks. I'm not even gonna burn this, I'm just gonna crimp it. I would normally burn the end, but you guys know that.
If you have any questions, throw them in the chat while we're going through.
You can have this crimped onto your rod ahead of time, but there are two ways of doing this. One is you can feed the leader through the mackerel, then put the hook into position, or you can already have it crimped onto your rod, and then this is the way I do it. So I just go in the mouth like this. See that? In the mouth. Pull my leader through. Grab my hook again. Then I'm just gonna take my hook, and I rigged them before, but you can make a little cut right here between the two chest fins on the mackerel, and then slide your hook through that cut. But I'm just gonna go ahead and hook it because I already know that's where I want it to be. So my hook's gonna end up sitting right about there. You can put it further back if you want, but it's gonna impede the action of the bait. So that's step one with actually putting the terminal gear in the bait. And the next step is floss. This is probably the most important part in this whole thing. You can apply this to, you know, any dead bait rigging. You know, if you go abroad or whatever, rigging mullets, whatever, you can use this. But basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the needle and the floss through the crotch loop on this. So the actual loop connection to the hook. So I get my hook kind of into position where I want it to be. I don't want it too far out like this because it's gonna lay over and then it's not gonna swim true. I want that hook, when I'm fishing this mackerel, to be sticking out about that far. So that's perfect for me. So I'm just gonna kind of hold that there. I'm gonna look in here and see where that crotch loop is, and it's right at about the cheek, where the jawbone meets the cheek of the mackerel. I'm gonna go in through the crotch loop, go out the other cheek, just like that. So that's gonna be where this bait pulls from, so it won't pull on the hook and curl the belly up and all that. So just one piece of floss. This is the most important piece of floss on this whole thing. And I'm just gonna do an overhand knot with both tag ends. Cinch these down. And you wanna be symmetrical. Try to get your knot, you know, dead nut center in the chin of the bait. Get it tight, like Taylor said, whenever you're using floss, go a little tighter than you think you should go, because it will stretch out. That's that. I'll cut that. So that's the most important stitch. Now you see my hook standing straight up exactly how I want it to be. Perfectly symmetrical on the bait.
Show them how that's holding the hook. Like
yeah, so when I hold it up, you can see it's not pulling by the hook. That mackerel's still straight. It's pulling by that piece of floss. So if you wanted to use this for like a spreader bar, or like say you run a daisy chain, a skip bait, or whatever, want this as a skip bait, you would just sew the mouth shut and then you'd be done. But we're gonna run this as a single swimmer. So we're gonna sew the mouth shut, and then we're gonna sew a lead just underneath the chin of this bait. So sewing the mouth shut, nothing special, just wanna be symmetrical. Get myself another piece of floss. Where's my needle? There's my needle. Oh, actually, you know what I'll do? Do this first. I'm just gonna go on the leader with this first. I'll just make it a little bit easier. So even tag ends. Just putting this on the leader with a little half hitch just to get me started. There's gonna be plenty more half hitches there. So that's all I need to get going. It's just to hold it in position for me. Then I'm gonna take one end of my floss. I'm gonna come up through the chin of the bait, go on one side of the leader, come out just behind the nostril because it's actually stronger there. Then come out. Then I'm gonna take my other one, put it on. I'm gonna go on the other side of the leader, behind the nostril.
He's going down.
Now I'm going down. So now I have a tag end on each side here. I'll do a slip knot. That's just gonna pinch the bait's mouth shut. Just like that. If you're not happy with how symmetrical it is, like I'm looking at this as I pull it tight, I'm just gonna put this one back down through on the other side of the leader. And then I'm gonna put this one back up the other way. Flip them over. Now I'm gonna do the exact same thing on the other side. So that's gonna hold his mouth shut, keep that line nice and straight. Then all you really need to do is just alternate half hitches. One single, one single, take both. I'm just gonna wrap twice and do a finishing knot. Just like that. Again, this would be black floss, so it wouldn't be as visible. So that's the next step right there. I'll lay it this way so you can see a little bit better. Leader's coming out the mouth, hook's coming out perfect. Now, this is where it kind of depends on what you have in your tackle box as far as leads. Most of like the newer egg sinkers, or most of the egg sinkers you're gonna get are like, you know, like that. They're like more football shaped. I like when they're longer and oval. This is actually kind of a tweener. I have more other leads that are actually on the boat that are longer than this, but you want a longer lead. You don't want it protruding way down from the chin. So this is gonna sit right about here on the bait. Basically, the jaw, and this will move depending on where your hook actually ends up coming out. You know, bigger mackerel, you might want it to go back more, whatever you want to do. But I want to make sure there's enough where I have some sort of gap between the hook. But in all honesty, it doesn't really matter all that much because this thing's going to get swallowed just like a live bait. The whole thing's going to blow apart and the hook's going to rip out of it. It's only held together by one stitch. So now I'm just going to attach this weight. So again, there's nothing like fancy here. It's just kind of being symmetrical with it. I'm going to take my floss, go through the weight. I find this easiest, honestly, to rig just like how I'm rigging on the boat. Just keep it flat on a table like this. If I can actually get this in here. All right. Floss is through. Take my needle. So I want this to be right about here. I'm gonna come through the mackerel's mouth right here, right in the bone, place that's gonna hold well. So right in the jawbone, there's one. That cinches up. Now I'm gonna come right on the back side of that jawbone, basically right like on that stitch that I made before. Just like that. Pull that through. So now I got two tag ends. I got one in the front and one in the back. You all see that? So I have the weight. Floss is through the weight. It's through this part of the jaw and this part of the jaw. Now I'm just gonna take one end, it doesn't matter, come back through the lead. Like that. Now I have my tag ends in my hand again. Now this is where the slip knot comes in super handy. So that I can just adjust the tension of this lead with that actual knot that I just made. I want that thing to be perfectly centered. You don't want it super tight because this is actually going to grab the water first. So if it's loose, it'll end up pushing up again. Not loose, but you don't want it smashed in there. If it's smashed in there, it's going to want to pick a side. It's going to want to pick a side of his chin, and he's going to lay on his side. So you want it tight, but not too tight, because you want the water to be able to grab that. Since this is hydrodynamic and the bait is hydrodynamic and this is dead nut center, it'll grab the water and stay true. If it's too tight, it'll pick a side and lay the mackerel on its side. And I just do my finisher, cut this, and that is a Mac swimmer right there. If you don't want to go through the hassle of putting your hook in here, I like fishing J hooks on dead baits.